Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I am your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names and kicking candy ass, live and in the color here with you only on Grande's Graveyard. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are on it. We are on the road that leads to nowhere. Yes, ladies and gents, because tonight we take a look at not one, not two, not three, not four, but eight goddamn Last House on the Left knockoffs. And yes, we have brought it back. I know it's a staple and that staple has been removed, but the staple is back in tonight because we have brought it back. The Wheel of Torture. Yes, the Wheel of Torture is live. It is really in color here tonight on Grande's Graveyard as we count down 8 Last House on the Left knockoffs, wannabes, supposed to be's, whatever you want to call them. That's what we'll be talking about here tonight on Grande's Graveyard. I'm rocking it. I'm rocking one of the awesomest shirts that I have here, the long sleeve Last House on the Left, black and red attack, if you will, if I can rhyme like a son of a bitch on this show. But I'm very excited to have you all in the house to talk about all things Last House on the Left knockoffs. This is a show that's kind of been a long time in making, right? I mean, I've discussed each and one of every of these movies pretty much on other shows spaced in and out. I even did a commentary for the original Last House on the Left, if you're interested in that, where I actually, at points of that commentary, I mentioned some of these movies. So these movies are no stranger to the show. I have discussed some of these before. So if it's deja vu for you, you know, it is what it is. But tonight we'll count them down. The Wheel of Torture will decide. Ghostface Brett was the one that was egging me on to bring back the Wheel of Torture. So I decided to listen to him. We listen to the crowd. We give the fans what they want only on the Graveyard. So I'm very excited to have everybody here only on the show. And of course, Miss C was here before we even went live. Ciao, Grande and Graveyardian friends. Hello, my friend Miss C. Hope all is well with you. Cindy. Oh, Cindy. Cindy, we'll be talking all things Cindy tonight on Grande's Graveyard. AJ's Happy Fun Time channel is in the house. Happy Thursday, all. Happy Thursday. AJ's Happy Fun Time channel. AJ's going to be on in 2 weeks where we count down our top 5 movies of the year 1985. Yes, not just horror, but we'll be counting down our top 5 movies of that year. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be episode number 299 of Grande's Graveyard. Tonight, of course, 297. And of course, at the last show of the month, we'll be celebrating number 300. And of course, we'll be doing some giveaways for that. So the video will follow a pre-recorded video where I'll discuss the giveaways and things like that. Should be a lot of fun. We got Ghostface Brett in the house. This is going to be a fun one. This is where the fun begins. This staple that some of which Wheel tortured down. Hell yeah. Anthony Chobot does Pop Cultures and Openings. What's going on, buddy? How are you, buddy? By the way, seeing Mickey 17 tomorrow and still up to 2009 in the memoirs. I'm giving up Facebook for Lent. Okay, all right. Hell yeah, giving up Facebook for Lent in March. Now that is a curveball if I've ever seen one in my life. We've got my good brother Brandon in the house only on the Graveyard. Whopper Horrors in the house. I hope this guy returns to YouTube someday, because if you think my rants are fun, it's nothing on this guy's rant on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 Leatherface. So I'm very happy to have everybody in the house. We've got all this physical media, of course, but I'd be remiss to not mention the movie that's going to be ripped off, knocked off, whatever the hell you want to get into it before we spin the Wheel of Torture. Of course, one of my all-time favorite horror movies, probably in my top 5 favorite horror movies, and one of my favorite, of course, Wes Craven movies. It's this, Nightmare on Elm Street, and The Hills Have Eyes. They'll probably be my top 3, but this one always held a special place in my heart. The original Last House on the Left, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, of course, which in and of itself was a knockoff, of course, of the little movie, the Ingmar Bergman film, The Virgin Spring, which is always something that gets mentioned when you mention this movie. And of course, once this movie became popular, once this movie became a staple in the drive-ins, and they went through all these titles, whether it be Sex Crime of the Century, which Sean S. Cunningham believed would sell like hotcakes. It didn't sell at all. It wasn't until they came across the title, The Last House on the Left, that's when it started selling and became this movie that really, I think, defined the early 1970s and grindhouse exploitation drive-in horror cinema, which is this movie right here. So I am, remiss to not put this movie over. It's one of my favorites. I've done commentaries, I've done reviews. It's just one of the all-time great horror movies. So I just wanted to give it a little bit of love before tonight, where we show the movies that, of course, took so much inspiration from it that they decided, hell, we're going to just rip the whole goddamn thing off. And we've got 8 of these movies tonight, so I'm very excited to get into these things. Let's see. Ryan Hanley's in the house. Haven't seen Last House in decades and need to rewatch it. Well, I highly recommend you rewatch it. It's one of the all-time greats for sure. But now, Now we get into the shit. Love that box set. Top 5 I own. I agree. Arrow always does a really good job, and that's a really, really good Blu-ray with the book and the poster and all that. I'm just a big, big fan. But let's not keep you in suspense anymore. Everyone, have a safe, happy, healthy weekend. Cheers. I don't have anything to hold up. I've drank my water. I've drank my soda. We're just going to spin the wheel of torture on this son of a bitch. So let's get to it. Why not? Let's spin the wheel, make the deal. 8 movies to choose from here. Let's see who comes up first. Spinning the wheel of torture. Who comes up first? Who's starting this show off? Are we starting the show off hot? All right. Yeah, this is definitely a controversial way to start off the show. Here, and we've got a brief plot synopsis. 3 escaped convicts hold a black minister and his family hostage, forcing them to fight for their lives. Yes, fight for your life. Of course, and if you don't know, this being a Last House knockoff, you look no further than the tagline on the poster. There is no greater violence than a father's revenge for the rape of his daughter. Yes, fight for your life here on Grande's Graveyard. And of course, I actually do have the DVD. Now, this was a late edition. Now, AJ Zetro pointed out to me that this one was sorely sticking out like a sore thumb, not being on my original list. So I said, you know what, AJ, you're right. This is sort of a Last House knockoff. So I wanted to discuss it a little bit here tonight on the show. Of course, I have discussed this in the past on one of the Video Nasty specials where I went into an in-depth review, but here we'll gloss over these, because there's so many. There's 8 of these, so we can really only spend a select amount of time on each one. But fight for your life. This is a wild movie, and it's probably one of the only movies banned from the fabled DPP BBFC Video Nasties list that was banned, not just for the violence. Now, there is quite a bit of violence in this. There's child murder. There is sexual assault. There is gunfire. There's blood. There's boobs. There's mayhem. All the stuff that you would synonymize with the Video Nasty. However, this is the only one of the Fable 72 that I truly believe in my heart of hearts was banned for the language in the picture. Now, of course, this was the 1970s. This was drive-in exploitation, grindhouse cinema. Everyone was trying to kind of come around the pike and not just make a statement, but make noise because of what Last House did, right? Last House kind of took the late 1960s and of course, kind of brought us into the early 1970s, that kind of switch change in horror between the 4 years between, I always say, Night of the Living Dead in 68 to Last House on the Left in 72. I think horror had, kind of had its stagnancy. And then, of course, in 72, Last House comes out and kind of just set the world on fire. And then all of these movies started to try to capitalize, I think, on not just the success of Last House on the Left, but the marketing campaigns. How many movies after Last House on the Left used "to avoid fainting, keep repeating, it's only a movie, only a movie, only a movie"? And it was a way for a lot of porn directors to get their voices heard into the exploitation horror scene. Hence, this director, of course, he had only directed one other movie, and yeah, it's a soft porn. It was his only real movie that, of course, wasn't a triple X movie, and it's, of course, Fight for Your Life. It tells the story of this pastor and his family. They, of course, have their home invaded by these 3 crooks who have murdered people along their way to the house. And of course, they pretty much humiliate, racially slur their way, and of course, do take advantage of the pastor's daughter in this movie. And man, this is a movie that truly holds no bar. I mean, no holds are barred with this particular picture. It's quite insane. I mean, there's a scene where the pastor, of course, has a son. And it's a little kid, and you see he's playing with his little buddy out in the forest. And later on, the kid comes over to play. Hey, can we play after dinner? And the crook has the kid answer the door. He goes, no, tell him you can't play right now. So he shoos the kid away, and the kid takes a look into the living room because he knows something's up, and he sees that they're being beaten and slaughtered and all these things. And the kid makes a run for it to try to tell somebody. Of course, one of these robbers, he runs out and bashes this kid over the head several times with a big stone. I mean, it's quite horrifying. Of course, you do have the sexual assault scene, which is absolutely insane. Never fun to watch in a movie like this, but it's quite impactful when, the pastor can hear it going on in the other room. He can hear what's going on. And this is a whole movie where I always like to say it's the whole psychology of horrors of a man that will turn the other cheek to the horrors before him. Here's a pastor. Here's a man that has chosen religion, who's chosen his faith, who has chosen God above all. and he's placed in an extraordinary situation where these crooks are beating his family. They're, verbally assaulting them, physically assaulting them, belittling them, and calling them all these terrible things. How long can you turn the other cheek until you have to go against everything that you believe in, everything that you know, everything that you've learned in your life and moved towards in order to fight for your life and save your family? When does that moment happen? And of course, in the third act, it's finally when the pastor decides, I can't turn the other cheek anymore. I have to do something to save the lives of my family. Otherwise, we're all going to end up dead. And it's a quite brutal film. It definitely is exploitative. It definitely has that 70s grit to it. I think it's a really solid Last House on the Left knock. Now, of course, adding the whole element of race versus race, and I thought that was really smart too. Of course, the crooks. You have the lead guy who I believe is played by William Sanderson. He's the lead crook. He's this really horrible racial bigot, but his two other buddies there are the minorities. One's Spanish, one's Chinese. You have the black family and the white. Yeah, like every single race is sort of represented here. It's almost like the United Nations. We are the world. We are the world, and you fight for your goddamn life. I liked this movie. I thought it was tastefully done. There are some people that are not going to be able to watch this due to the subject matter, and it's totally understandable if that's the case, but they don't call them video nasties for nothing. If you're watching some 70s exploitation cinema, you should know what you're getting into. If you're an SJW, don't you be turning on Fight for Your Life, because you're only going to be offended. I really like this movie, though. I highly recommend it. I think it's really well done. It's a shame the director didn't really go on to do much more, but to me, absolute staple of Last House on the Left knocks, and I'm happy that AJ Citro turned my brain on to actually add this one to the list. Fight for Your Life. Really like this one. Let's go to comments, though. Let's see what you all have to say here in the comments. I believe we were right here. Mateo, my friend, ciao, grande. Ready for some ripoffs? Hi, Graveyardians. Always a pleasure. Absolutely. Oh, shit. Yes. This was a video nasty, too. You were absolutely right. I covered it on one of those shows. I've done like 8 or 9 video nasty shows now. So it runs together as to which show I covered it on. But I did do a full in-depth review of this one not terribly long ago. I would say about a year or so ago. Missed watching that one. Need to watch. Proceed, Miss C, with caution. Yes, no, it's not. Listen, it's not for the faint of heart. There are some people that can take all the violence in the world, but sometimes with language, sometimes when you're getting things like race, you're walking on eggshells, really. So it's understandable how this really wouldn't be for certain people, and I could totally understand that. I really can. I think, for what it's worth, it's telling that type of story, and it needs to be in there. It's a vital part to the picture, but I could totally understand someone saying that's not for me. Last House on the Left ripoff could be 1982 underrated movie Alone in the Dark. These mental patients, sorry, I had a burp, escape from a mental insane asylum and go after the doctor who they believe murdered the old one. Okay, that one did not make my list. Yes, I do, Ryan Hanley. I do consider Night Train Murders a knockoff, and that is going to be discussed tonight. It's on the Wheel of Torture, my friend, so stay tuned. Ryan, pretty sure he'll be covering Night Train Murders, absolutely. Even pastors get pissed. That could have been a good tagline, too. Reverse fuck around and find out. Exactly. The 1967 movie, Wait Until the Dark, is almost pretty much inspiration to Last House on the Left because of how it involves gang criminals entering the home of a blind woman. Okay, interesting. So you got ones even before Last House on the Left came out. But, of course, that was Fight for Your Life from 1977. Highly recommend. It's one that I think is pretty solid when it comes to the list of knockoffs. Now, they're not all solid, and dare I say that before we spin the Wheel of Torture. Let's see. Are we going to get a solid one, or are we going to get one full of shit? Let's spin the wheel. Let's make the deal. What do we got? Oh, shit. Okay, we avoided Golden Apples of the Sun, and of course, it's not the Last House on the Left, you son of a bitches. It's not. I'm talking about the Last House on the Beach. Yes, the Last House on the Beach. She was having none of it. Yes, none of it. Brief plot synopsis. Sister Christina, played by legendary Italian actress and scream queen Florinda Balkan. Brazilian. She's Brazilian, but she did a lot of Italian movies. Plays a nun who takes the teenage girls in her care to a remote house where they rehearse a Midsummer Night's Dream. 3 thugs then show up, brutally raping and terrorizing the girls, killing one by raping her with a cane, until Balkan renounces her teachings and seeks a bloody revenge. Yes, The Last House on the Beach, goddammit. Now, I know that was not the original title. I believe the original title was The Seventh Woman or something like that. This was something that they changed it to this when it became distributed in the United States. and they decided, they were like, hey, you know what? This is similar to Last House on the Left. What if we called it Last House on the Beach? And of course, they tried to sell it like hotcakes, and it didn't really sell. It's not a movie that did successful in Italy or in the United States for that matter. It was a bomb in Italy. It did not do well in the theater at all. I mean, you'd think having someone like Florinda Balkan and someone like Ray Lovelock, who is another really underrated actor that I think is really good as the lead heel here. I mean, you would think those two could draw in some people, get some butts in the seats, and then something as exploitative as this. But that's not really the case. That's not really what happened. This movie, unfortunately, was a bomb. And this is one that Severn had released years and years ago. There's only still to this day the DVD. I don't believe there's ever been a Blu-ray of this. I believe the original camera negative may be lost at this time. But it is a situation where I think this is a solid enough Last House on the Left movie and a fun Italian knockoff of it in and of itself. So this one, again, it's actually quite similar to Fight for Your Life. It's three crooks. Of course, instead of knocking on the door of a pastor, they knock on the door of a nun, played by Florinda Balkan, who has all of these attractive, young, sun-tanning teenage girls in their house, and they are rehearsing a play, A Midsummer Night's Dream, because why not? And of course, these three thugs start to take advantage and brutalize these young girls at the house. And of course, the head of that is Florinda Balkan, who, of course, again, is a nun, is devout, and they pretty much humiliate her to no end. They have a point where they make her dress up. Oh, let's see what you got in there, Miss Nun. They rip her clothes off, and you get the idea that they are having a threesome with her, and Florinda Balkan, obviously being a nun, probably not used to some threesomes. But that is in the film. There is a couple of girls that one of them shows defiance. She gets the hell beat out of her. There's one where they're trying so hard to kind of get her to like them, and she's resisting to the point where they say, hey, it's time we pop your cherry. We could tell that you're a virgin. And they pull out this cane, which has a giant like base, and they shove it up to her yoo-hoo. And holy shit, I mean, it is one of the more violent scenes in any of these movies, of course, as we see the aftermath of the woman lying dead on the floor, and they tell Florinda Balkan, oh, she's just asleep. And Florinda kind of sees her lying on the floor with all of the blood pouring out of her yoo-hoo. Holy cow. I mean, this one could get some pretty mean-spirited, nasty. It definitely does capture some of that mean spirit that the original Last House on the Left has. And I do think it was, in a way, well-directed enough. Now, this of course, comes from director Francesco Prosperi, who I don't know of a lot of his work, but I thought he did a decent enough job here. The musical score is quite good. It's like this kind of operatic type of score. Ooh, there's a lot of that in the movie. A lot of shots of the actual waves coming into the water. And I thought that the three criminals did a really good job at making you hate them. They did a good job at drawing heat for the viewer to kind of go, oh my God, I hate these guys. I hope they get what's coming to them. And of course, you don't get disappointed there. Now, fun fact about this movie, this was a movie that Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof took quite a bit of inspiration from. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if of course you've seen Death Proof, you know at the end when Kurt Russell has his whole turn where he's not this tough, rugged stuntman, he's actually kind of a bitch. He's actually this soft guy that was I'm just messing around. He was just messing around, trying to have a fun time. And of course, he meets girls that are tougher than him who proceed to beat the freaking shit out of him. Of course, this movie kind of has a similar finale to that. The Ray Lovelock, he's trying to like talk his way out of the situation. I wasn't too bad. I was just doing what I was told. I really wasn't the bad guy here. He's trying to plead his case as these women decide to just beat the holy shit out of him. And they take turns beating him with, crutches and rakes and punching him and things like that. That's pretty much how Death Proof ends. Death Proof ends where Stuntman Mike is getting the shit kicked out of him by the few girls in the car. So I always thought that was funny. That I'm sure Quentin Tarantino must have saw this and went, "That's how I'll end Death Proof." Like just a full on like women. I am women. Hear me roar. I'm gonna kick your friggin' ass, evil man. And I liked that. I thought that was kind of a fun finale to this movie. Now, is it perfect? No, it has a lot of problems. It has a lot of pacing issues. There is a lot of slow scenes in this particular film. It's not a movie that has the good pacing that some of these other movies, even the bad ones, have. Like this does feel like a little bit of a chore to watch at times. It is a little bit of a slow burn, but you do have somebody who's a pro like Florinda Balkan who is again playing a similar character to the pastor in, of course, Fight for Your Life, right? Here's a woman that chose her faith and Christianity and being a nun and saying, no to all of these vices and things that life has to offer. And then, of course, what would you do to protect these innocent young women that are still discovering their womanhood? I thought that was a really interesting thing. And you see slowly but surely her characters start to kind of have to be like, okay, I can't keep turning the other cheek, to use that expression again. I can't keep doing it. If we just keep sitting here and of course submit, we will die in here. And of course, that's when Florinda Balkan finally has had enough of it, and she takes a gun into her hands, and all hell breaks loose in the last house on the beach. A fun one. It's definitely nothing great. It's like a 5.5, 6 out of 10 at best. I definitely think if you're watching Last House knockoffs, there are worse ways you can go, but it's also one of the ones that's very middle of the road. It's a very middle of the road Last House on the Left knock. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just somewhere in the middle. If you're a Florinda Balkan fan, though, to me, it's a must. I mean, if you like movies like Footprints, if you like movies like A Lizard in a Woman's Skin and Don't Torture a Duckling, and like anything that she was in, to me, she was just an absolute fucking movie star. And this movie is absolutely, no exception. She's always good, always brings it, and easily the best thing in this movie. And Ray Lovelock, I think, does a good job for what it's worth too. Last House on the Beach, one that I could recommend as well. So far, so good. I can't believe the Wheel of Torture really hasn't tortured us yet. I mean, it's scary because they're only going to be worse as we go on. I got frustrated trying to watch this one. Really? Okay, not a fan, I'm guessing. Florinda is Brazilian, but her boobs are Italians. Rip off of a joke of Greg Giraldo and Pam Anderson. Amen to that, man. No, that's a good one. I mean, she was gorgeous. I mean, Florinda Balkan was, and she's still alive, actually. I'm talking about her like she's gone. Florinda is actually still with us. She would probably have to be in her 80s by now, I would think. I'm not positive, but I know she's still around. Just a beautiful lady, a really good actress. Always bought, I think, like a cool, calm, and collected nature and nurture to her performances. She very rarely went over the top. She's very stoic, but I think she's just really always solid. Always like she's a good anchor to any film. So I'm a big fan of Florinda. Texas THC 1965 is in the house. What's going on, Texas? Hope all is well with you. We got Stacy in the house. I'm doing well, Stacy. Hope all is well with you. Franco Prosperi is terrible. This is his masterpiece. The rest are Italian C movies. Well, that makes sense because I really wasn't familiar with any of his work. And you could honestly call this a C movie as well. It's a C movie knockoff of Last House on the Left. But it's really not terrible. It's just one of those where it's like it's middle of the road more so. I'm discussing movies of 1983 on my channel, audio only for now. It's fun. Very cool. Have you been filming locations for the movies you are discussing? I was over there once and didn't realize I was nearby. I have not. No. Do you have any Mets tickets for this year? I have several games in June I'm visiting for. I hope they win each one I go to. Don't have any Mets tickets. No. Not a case of liking, case of language barrier. Okay. What is your family's favorite horror movie? Family's favorite comedy? My family's really not into horror movies. Not into it at all, unfortunately. So it is what it is. But let's get back to the Wheel of Torture. Yes, the Wheel of Torture. Let's spin the wheel and let's make a goddamn deal. Only on the Graveyard. Let's hope we don't have any more pain, but that's really all that's left, right? Oh, no. Oh, Jesus. All right. Here it comes. You got to talk about it. I know that says Cage Terror. That was, of course, what this movie was re-released as in the mid-1980s. The original title, though, and this is the movie that would be the first one that ripped off Last House on the Left, the very first knockoff. And I'm talking about this movie right here from 1973. This is Golden Apples of the Sun. Brief plot synopsis. Pretentious campers get locked in a makeshift chicken coop. Yep, that's the brief plot synopsis. That is the brief plot synopsis. Golden Apples of the Sun. Holy shit. Okay. So this is the first one that I will absolutely tell you is a piece of shit. And this is an absolute piece of monkey shit that no one should ever watch. No one should ever know. Just know. This is a horrible goddamn movie. And if you do not believe me, Golden Apples of the Sun gets a 2.0 on IMDb. I am not even kidding you. This one gets a 2.0 on IMDb. Pretty brutal. The movie has of course, a bunch of no-name actors. It basically tells the story of this office worker. One of the man looks a lot like a young Steve Martin, and of course, this is the only one I don't own. So I guess I could show the Wheel of Torture. That's one of the re-release covers, Cage Terror. It stars a guy that looks just like Steve Martin and this woman that he is kind of attracted to in his office. And the movie opens up where he kind of is asking her out on a date for the weekend. He's like, hey, I would love to go to the woods with you. We could have a fun weekend. Like, what do you say? And she's like, okay, all right. So the two of them go to the middle of the woods where they proceed to have some of the most awkward dialogue. You have some of the most bizarre zoom outs and just insanity. You have these two people discussing sex. You have these two people discussing ritual. You have these two people discussing animal sacrifice. And then for some reason they decide, hey, let's go skinny dipping. They skinny dip in the water and then decide, hey, why don't we just sacrifice a rabbit and have sex? So these fucking idiot people decide they're going to decapitate a rabbit and pour it all over the woman's yits as they're having sex on the, like, you think you have wild weekends. What the hell? Steve Martin and this lady decide to go in the middle of the fucking woods where it's their first date. And okay, yeah, you know what? Animal sacrifice, skinny dipping, middle of the woods. Let's fucking do it. And let's talk about all these weird things that no other two people would talk about on their first goddamn date. But here they are doing it. Of course, on the side subplot, we have these two Vietnam veterans who are just walking around doing nothing. There's no rhyme, reason. They're not convicts. They're not up to no good. They're not up to anything evil. They're just fucking out for a walk. I don't understand why, but they are. So for some reason, these two, of course, eventually cross paths. The Steve Martin and his woman, they fucking go to this cabin that they find in the middle of the woods. They decide to have a picnic on the table, and they see in the distance that there's this giant chicken coop. Not the one from Friday of Debo's mom's pigeon coop. No, it's a fucking chicken coop, a giant one with barbed wire fence that you could fit a fucking circus in. It's the most giant, biggest chicken coop I've ever seen. And they're checking it out. Wow, this is a big ass chicken coop. The fucking Vietnam vets show up. They're nothing but cordial. They sing songs together. Then in the middle of the night, the fucking vets are out in the field playing songs. Steve Martin gets pissed and starts shooting at them. And then he's shocked that they fucking go over there, beat the hell out of him, lock him in the chicken coop, and then decide to grope his fucking girlfriend while she's unconscious and has no idea any of this is going on. And as this is happening, he's taunting this fucking guy in the chicken coop going, yeah, I'm on top of your girl. What you going to do about it? And the guy's like, no, get off of her. I'm in a fucking chicken coop. It is fucking bizarre. Like, I don't understand it. And the movie ends where the lady who got groped and sexually assaulted by these fucking guys walks over to them and is like, have a nice day. Like sees them off into the fucking sunset and walks back up to the fucking chicken coop like nothing fucking happened. What in the fuck were these people smoking? What the fuck? Let's rip off Last House on the Left. We'll add animal sacrifice. We'll pour animal rabbit blood all over this lady's yits. We'll lock Steve Martin up in the fucking chicken coop. We'll have these two fucking war veterans who got shot at and were acting in self-defense decide, hey, we're a bunch of creeps and we're going to just sit there and grope your woman who's going to have no recollection of this. Why? I don't know. Why did she never wake up? I don't know. She had a tongue halfway down her throat, but she's snoring like she's on some fucking Robitussin, snoring like she's on some fucking Quill, and for some reason doesn't wake the fuck up. Her boyfriend is screaming at her at the top of his lungs while he's locked in a goddamn chicken coop. What the hell? This movie stinks. And there's a reason that this movie did not get a fucking physical media release until 1986 and had the title changed. There is a reason for it, because it stinks and because it is fucking horrible. Now, you may wonder what happened to the directors. Okay, this was done by a team. Barry McLean and Kristen Weingartner. Come on down. They were so ashamed of this movie, they removed it from their resumes. If you fucking try to hire these people, it is no longer on their resume. And they decided for some goddamn reason, they went into documentary filmmaking and have been pretty successful producers since this movie came out. This is an example of what Wes Craven did going completely wrong, right? Wes Craven was an up-and-comer. Wes Craven was, of course, he had directed porn post this, right? As Abe Snake himself. This was an up-and-comer that had never made a movie before and just made something completely impactful, completely memorable, something that moved the genre along for years to come. Here's people that probably had the same idea. We're young, we're stupid, we're ambitious. Let's try to make our Last House on the Left and move the genre along. Let's do it. Why not? Golden apples in the goddamn sun. Get your rabbits out and start bleeding all over this son of a bitch. But it went horribly wrong. It's this movie, if it went horribly fucking wrong, the acting is horrible. The filmmaking, if you could call this filmmaking, is actually some of the worst you'll ever see. I mean, this is absolutely got to be in conversation for the worst Last House knockoff. It's this or another movie we'll discuss tonight. But man, it's really horrible. It really is truly one of the worst movies out there. It really is. It's just horrible on every single level. Don't watch it. I know some people probably go, he's burying it so much that I want to watch it. You will die of sheer fucking boredom. There's nothing to this movie. It's 80 minutes of nothing. It's 80 minutes of bad conversation, no chemistry, a fucking Steve Martin lookalike that gets locked up in a pigeon coop because why the fuck not? But the only thing that could have made this movie better, maybe if they got Chris Tucker and he was locked up in Debo's pigeon coop. My mama had to tell me how to Debo's pigeon coop after he took the crystal meth on Friday. That would have been a lot better movie than this. Unfortunately, though, Golden Apples of the Sun, man. Oh, man, there's nothing golden about it. Cage terror, if you will. Horrible, horrible movie. Do I work as a stockbroker? If not, there's a movie about stockbrokers being made. Would you like to play a role in it? No, I'm not a stockbroker. Shocker. John Grande better than Gordon Gekko. Oh shit. Oh my God. I don't think I'll be the last person to be a stockbroker. Damn, your family doesn't like horror. My mom showed me Halloween when I was 6 or 7. That's what did it for me. That's cool, man. No, not really. They're not. I mean, casually, there's ones they like. Like I know they like Elm Street. They like the original Friday the 13th. Like there's some The Shining, but they aren't fans of it. I'm the only one in my family that loves the genre the way I do. Like it's just not, they're all cinema people, all of them. My family loves movies, but not horror movies. This one is a guilt. No, it's not. No, it is not. It's no one's guilty pleasure. A new movie called Coins in the Gutter is being made by Neon, has a similar plot to this. Well, avoid coins in the gutter. Leave coins in the gutter in the fucking gutter. Golden Apples was all capped from Miss C. Awful. I came close to falling asleep. There you go. I proof that it's fucking dull. During this one, I was ready to throw tomatoes at my TV. Well, you know what? I would have joined you, Miss C. I would have threw a bottle of Pines ketchup at this fucking TV with this nothing movie, nothing plot. And it's a reason that it's free on YouTube. You can watch the movie for free on YouTube because it's fucking horrible. Oh, no, this is something different. I don't know this movie. Thank you for clarifying. There you go. I was going to say, there is no goddamn way this is anybody's guilty pleasure. Have you seen White of the Eye? I have not. Bro, this sounds like a satire. It is actually unreal. And I'll be honest with you. I am a sucker for this era of film. I love the early 1970s. I love the way films looked, no matter from where they were from. I loved the look, the aesthetic, the grit of an early 1970s film. So if there's anyone that would find some kind of solace, some kind of, redeeming element, quality, whatever you want to say, it would have been me. I mean, there's just nothing to be found here. There's nothing going on. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to do, really. It's just a bunch of fucking nonsense that, I mean, it was just actually torture. And I still do not understand the ending. Why did this lady never wake up? And then why the hell did she set them off like she was going, like they were going to college? All right, you groped me and locked my fucking husband in the chicken coop. I can still see he's locked in the chicken coop, but I'm going to walk you over to the fucking school bus and I'm going to pack your fucking lunch. And then when you come back home, I'm going to pretend that you didn't do any of the shit that you did to me. What the heck? I still don't understand the end of this movie at all. Like maybe someone can explain it to me. I don't know, but this is a horrible fucking movie. It really is. So you're telling me that this movie was actually produced? Actually, it was, yes. And these people didn't go on to do nothing. Now, they never went on to do another feature film. Thank fucking Jeebus. Thank Florinda Balkan and the pastor from fucking Fight for Your Life. We can all pray to Allah that they never fucking went on to do any more exploitation movies that made me suffer for 80 minutes. But it is what it is. So you tell me, yeah, it was horrible. It was actually horrible. And I know this is a movie that, like I was saying, it did eventually get a release in the late 1980s, like 86, 87-ish, as Caged Terror. And they tried to sell it as this movie where, oh, the husband's locked in the chicken coop the whole time or something. I mean, I don't think the idea is terrible when you take away the animal sacrifice and the fucking cons I'm sorry, they're not cons. They're fucking Vietnam War veterans. I mean, the movie could have had potential, right? The couple goes into the woods. They're staying there, and then maybe these crooks lock them up in the cage and do all these horrible things and stuff like that, and like take turns putting them in and out of the chicken coop. That could have worked. Any kind of exploitative element other than chopping up a fucking bunny might have worked. They didn't do that here, unfortunately. My description is much better than the actual movie. Well, I'm very fucking flattered to hear that because I don't know. This movie's horrible. I hope they don't make documentaries on rabbits. I don't believe so, but I do believe they are nature documentaries. So these people were into. I looked at it earlier in the week. I don't bear to look anymore. I don't have the courage or bravery. What up, Grande? I'm here on the graveyard. D to the A, Donovan Alva in the house. What's going on, buddy? D to the B, Darren Burrows. Hey, mate. Hope all's well with you too. Remember our last House of Love versus Night Train Murder stream? That was a fun one, both classes, in my opinion. Darren, absolutely. And Night Train Murders will be mentioned here tonight, only on the Graveyard. Always a good time chopping it up with you, man. And, of course, Dirk, Subjective Perspective Collective. Awesome stuff. You guys are also still they're doing the Euro Cult shows. So anyone, everybody's got to check out. It's over on Dirk's channel. I believe they're also simulcasted on the Dead Pit channel. So they're always doing awesome stuff. It's always good to see Darren in the house. And hopefully Darren has not been subjected to this piece of shit known as Golden Apples of the Sun, because it is a piece of monkey shit and it should never be experienced by anyone. Okay, so moving that from the wheel of torture, and we're going to spin this son of a bitch. Let's spin the wheel. Let's make the deal. What's the next one in the bag of torture? Oh, no, not the other fucking bear. Oh, Jesus. Well, back to back and belly to belly, we've got the worst two Last House on the Left knockoffs as we move all the way down the line, of course, from 1973 all the way down to 2005. This from director and failed pro wrestler Demon Dave DeFalco. This is chaos. Yes, brief plot synopsis. Two teenage girls on a mission to find drugs at a rave get more than they bargained for. One is sexually assaulted, and they are both tortured in horrific ways. The attackers seek refuge in the parents of one of the victims' homes. Yes, chaos. Wow. Holy shit. Now, I am ashamed to say I do own this movie. I do. It's part of a 2-pack, which with another video nasty. Don't Look in the Basement. I do. I really like this movie. But this fucking movie is a bunch of shit. And I think it's the worst Last House on the Left knockoff. It's close. It's this or Golden Apples of the Sun. I mean, you take your fucking pick, but I actually lean towards chaos being worse. This is an exploitation horror movie made for all of the wrong reasons. And this is made by someone who has no respect for the horror genre or the people in it, or the people that have, go on to make their names synonymized with horror movies. Demon Dave DeFalco was a failed pro wrestler, right? He made one other movie after this called Wrong Side of Town, which stars Deacon Dave Bautista and Rob Van Dam. You don't believe me? Look up Wrong Side of Town. That was his follow-up to this movie, one of the only movies he did other than this. This might as well have been a remake too, right? Because, of course, it is the same exact plot as Last House on the Left. They just call it chaos. Of course, the movie is co-produced by the actor in Last House on the Left, Craig Scheffler, who, of course, Craig Scheffler was co-producer of this movie. And this, to me, the reason why it is so bad is because of the way, it was marketed, promoted, and I think the whole psychology of the movie is quite terrible. And not to mention the horrible filmmaking from Demon Dave. It's the same plot, right? It's the same plot, same story. Two girls, they're going to a concert. They ask the wrong person for some drugs. They ask Sage Stallone. Hey, yo, Adrian, with Sage Stallone. Remember me from Rocky 5? I'm going to teach you how to throw a left hook, kid. Sage Stallone. May he rest in pepperoni. Sage Stallone is in this movie, and he plays the guy that they ask for fucking heroin or pot or whatever the fuck they ask him for. So we're trying to score some H. He takes them to the fucking cabin in the woods where he is meted by Kevin Gage, who's basically playing the David Hess Krug role. And then, of course, his two bungle fucking dope partners who I don't even care to mention their names because they're no Jeremy Rain and they're no Fred fucking Lincoln. This is a terrible movie. It's absolutely terrible. It is horror for the sake of it. It's exploitation for the sake of exploitating. And to me, that is horror done horribly wrong. This is everything where let's tone it up. Let's take Last House on the Left, this movie that was made in the 70s and changed the genre and had all of this impact. Let's fucking try to top it. And the way they try to top it, let's not have them pee their pantses. Let's fucking cut their nipples off, eat their nipples, and have them try to eat their own goddamn nipples. Yes, that happens in this movie. The fucking lead heel decides, oh, hey, I want to taste you. He cuts this lady's yit off and then tastes it and then tries to shove it in her fucking mouth. We're topping it, man. And no, they don't sexually assault the Mary character. We shove a knife up her ass and turn it and watch, and you see her scream and cry and beg and bleed. And that's what they do in this movie. Instead of fucking bumbling cops, we have racist bumbling cops, because why the fuck not? And instead of smart parents that are trying to truly avenge their daughter and protect what they had, nope, we have these idiot parents who literally couldn't fucking wrestle their way out of a paper bag, couldn't hit water if they fell out of a fucking boat, and they have them, they're going to cast out the revenge, the vengeance will be theirs. No, it's a bunch of fucking bullshit, and it stinks. Now, the infamy of this movie was Roger Ebert saw it and fucking freaked out. And Roger Ebert considered it one of, if not the worst movie he had ever seen. He wrote this scathing review. It's like one of his worst and least favorite movies ever. And of course, Demon Dave DeFalco, he decided, hey, why don't we fucking use that to market our film? Roger Ebert, of course, they took all of his quotes out of context. This is a disgusting, terrible, brutal movie. Roger Ebert thought it was brutal, man. We got to watch it. Of course, that's how he tried to sell the movie, which I think is such a cop-out. He hated your movie, and you're trying to spin his facts to try to get people to buy what you're selling. And what you're selling was shit because you didn't have any respect. You didn't have any idea or inkling as to what made the original Last House on the Left as impactful as it was, right? These were humans, right? The whole scene with Krug after he assaults Sandra Peabody and he gets up and he's pulling the blades of grass out of his hands and dirt and things like that. He was sickened by what he had done. Everyone around him was sickened by what he had done. These weren't psychopaths. These were humans that did something unspeakable that you could never turn back from. And the music, now you're all alone. One of the greatest scenes in horror movie history. We may be talking about it next week when we do the top 10 scenes in horror movie history. This movie doesn't have any of that. This movie has no soul. This is like when people say movies are soulless, this is a soulless movie, is Chaos. There's nothing to it. There's no point. There's no message. It's just exploitative for the sake of let's fucking do it because why not? It's horror pornography. And there are some people that will like that. There are some people that can get behind that. There are some people that no matter how crazy you go, they're going to be there because, push the envelope. There is no such thing as crossing a line. I get why you tried to sell your movie, and I get that, in the beginning, this is a depiction of real acts that happen mainly to women, and he even has gone as far to say, which I thought this was disgusting, he said that this was his answer in response to the 9/11 attacks. That's what Demon Dave DeFalco has said about Chaos. This was my response to 9/11. Dude, you're a fucking hack. Your movie fucking sucks. There's a reason they don't let you make movies anymore. I don't know how you got to work with Demon Dave Bautista and RVD. Maybe you just they owed you a favor. I have no idea. But this movie is an absolute fucking abortion of a movie. It never should have been released. It is absolutely, to me, the wrong idea when you're thinking about making an exploitation movie because you didn't have anything to exploit and say when it came to your fucking message. That's the problem. Like Last House has all these things to say, and then of course the parents they see what has happened to their daughter and they have to rebel. We have to fight back. We've got to take these bastards out. And they trick them, seduce them, cut them up in chainsaw, what have you. I mean, it's great stuff. It's a great movie. This is just a bumbling movie that goes on and on. There's not any music in the film. All of the acting is terrible. It's atrocious acting. Hardly any of these people would go on to work again, right? I mean, the one playing one of the lead girls, Maya Barovich as Angelica, she never acted again. And I wouldn't either. I would never show my face in the real world again if I fucking acted in a movie like this. I swear to you, I would work from home behind a desk and I wear a mask all the time. That's how fucking ashamed I would be. This movie's so shitty, it killed Sage Stallone. It literally killed him. I mean, fuck. Kevin Gage is possibly the only good actor in this movie. The parents are terrible. Kelly Casey Kwan did very minimal acting. I mean, it's just sad. It's like all these people, they didn't go on to do shit. You have people that were involved in the original Last House on the Left producing a movie like this. And to me, it's like for all the wrong reasons. I like exploitation cinema. I really do. There's a lot of exploitation movies I truly love. To me, this is the bottom of the barrel of them. It's horror pornography, and it's just horror with no heart, horror with no meaning, purpose, or impact. And to me, that's what truly makes it the worst Last House on the Left knockoff. There's nothing to run home about. You could throw all the violence and gratuity in the world that you want at the screen. If it has no meaning, if it has no oomph, how is it supposed to be lasting? How is it supposed to be memorable? How is it supposed to leave along a legacy like a movie like this did? And the answer is it didn't. I mean, this is not a movie that people talk about. It's a movie that's widely forgotten. As much stirring of the pot as Demon Dave DeFalco has wanted to do. I got this for $3. That's why I own it. And I mainly got it for Don't Look in the Basement. But of course, it was a 2-pack, $150 a movie. I mean, shit, I couldn't pass. It is a horrible film though. And I swear to you, if it was 2 discs, if this was the old 2 disc, if they weren't so cheap, I would break Chaos in half with a fucking drumstick or something. Horrible, absolute piece of shit movie. But let's go to comments. Let's see what y'all have to say. Back-to-back Grande rants. Yeah, for real. I purposely missed this one after I saw you and somebody else comment on Instagram how awful it is. It's terrible. Those 2 chicks looked more like they were on their way to a Dave Matthews concert instead of a rave. Yeah, they're going, these 2 fucking ladies, he's so right. He's right on the money. They're going to this rave in the middle of the woods, and they try to basically just remake Last House on the Left. Like, that's the thing. It might as well just been called Last House on the Left. Like, I don't know if they couldn't get Cunningham involved with it. And I mean, good thing that they couldn't. Good thing that they couldn't get Wes or Cunningham or anybody that had a stake in the original movie involved to call it that, other than Craig Scheffler, of course. It's a disgrace. I truly see it as a stain of cinema. And I think the way that he tried to promote it and sell it, I think was even more disgraceful. To bring shit like terrorist attacks of September 11th into it, to bring like Roger Ebert's good name, who just genuinely didn't like your movie, and to try to spin his words, to try to sell your garbage. I just don't have any respect for you because they clearly don't have any respect for horror. Like, you look at, I can make the comparison. It's a perfect comparison. Look at pro wrestling, right? I'm a big pro wrestling guy. Look at somebody like Vince Russo. A lot of people hate Vince Russo. There are people that will back him. There are people that say he's misunderstood, whatever. That's fine. Vince Russo has no respect for professional wrestling. It's the same thing that horror is to Demon Dave DeFalco. It's pornography. It's how can I make an impact? How can I make a headline? How can I get on the front page? Where it's not always about that. It should be about you making an entertaining product. But it's not really that way for these guys. These guys were just trying to go shock value to the point where, oh my God, I'll watch this. And then when you realize it's the shit that it is, you're never picking it up again. But they, in their minds, well, I got you to watch it. That's the way they think. Why does David Arquette be the world champion in WCW? Because Vince Russo knew it was a fucking headline. Never mind the lineage of the belts. Never mind the guys that worked their whole careers and lives to gain said belt. No, fuck them all because we can get a headline by putting it on a fucking actor from Scream. But that's the same thing Demon Dave did. We'll fucking promote it the same. I mean, look at how they promoted it. I mean, look at the poster, right? It's Angelica, 18, is dying, and for her, the worst is yet to come. She's going to experience chaos. Huh, I wonder where that fucking tagline has happened, right? Mary, 17, is dying. We'll just make it 18 instead of 17. We'll call her Angelica instead of Mary. Fuck you. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. I think that the movie in Cold Blood is very much pre-Last House on the Left movie because it involves these two crooks who break into the home and murder a family. Okay, watch out. Demon Dave's going to challenge you to a cage match. Is he going to fucking really? Scratch Bruno's in the house. I mean, Demon Dave, I'm sure there's a possibility Demon Dave watches this. Demon Dave, I'm sorry, man. Your movie stinks. I really, and I don't really have much respect for him. I don't. I think his movie sucks. People saying, what up? I looked up Wrong Side of Town. Well, even that one doesn't look like something to be proud. No, that's definitely not something to be. But spoiler, if you do watch that, Batista's in it for a whole 5 to 10 minutes. And Rob Van Dam is actually the lead of that movie. It's a piece of shit, though. Don't watch it. It's really bad. I don't know. It's a good thing to me that he's sort of fallen off the face of the earth. Now, I know this is his company that released this, Dark Force Entertainment, and they released a lot of these 70s double feature grindhouse drive-in movies, which I like. I like the releases because generally I like movies from that era, but Chaos is a movie that doesn't resemble anything from that era. It just resembles a big bunch of turds. So unfortunately, Chaos is one of, if not the worst. It's the worst one for me. Chaos can go fuck itself. All of its nipple eating, all of its offensive shit, all of its, want to compare itself and be holier than thou and leave these warnings that, oh, this happens every year to real people. Go fuck yourself. You're barking up the wrong tree. Then you're barking up the wrong tree 20 fucking years later. No one watched this movie. Fuck you. Let's move on to the next movie on the Wheel of Torture as we spin the wheel. And alrighty, we move into the remake itself, a movie that, it's funny, Chaos really could have been in a lot of ways the remake for Last House on the Left. Of course, 4 years down the road, we get the actual in-name Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham produced The Last House on the Left, the remake from 2009. Brief plot synopsis. After kidnapping and brutally assaulting 2 young women, a gang unknowingly finds refuge at a vacation home belonging to the parents of one of the victims, a mother and father who devise an increasingly gruesome series of revenge tactics. All right. The Last House on the Left remake. This is one that is so divisive for me that it's going to be an interesting one to discuss here on Grande's Graveyard. Now, I know that the general consensus is that this is one of the better remakes. And right off the bat, I'll say, is it well made? Absolutely. Dennis Aledius, the director, he did a good job. This was one of his first movies. Of course, he had directed the short called Hardcore, and that thus got him the job to make the Last House on the Left remake. And then he's done some other movies since this. This was a big box office hit. It made its budget times 3 at the box office. I believe it was a $15 million budgeted movie. It made like just under $46 million. So it was definitely a successful movie at the box office. And this was right towards the tail end of all the remake trend of course, they had remade The Last House on the Left. I'm sorry. They remade The Hills Have Eyes by this point. And then, of course, the following year, they remade Elm Street, which is a lot better than the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. But I digress. It is well made. It is well crafted. It's not poorly acted for the most part. The violence in it is there. I'm beating around the bush. I'm walking on eggshells. Why am I not just putting the movie over and going with the rating that is higher than the original film itself? If you go on IMDb, this gets a 6.5 on IMDb, whereas the original gets a 5.8, which is absolute fucking horseshit in my opinion. But a lot of people, I guess the general consensus is this is a better movie than the original movie. I'm sorry, I'm not there. I'm just not even close to being there. While it is passable, while it is decent, while it is okay, to me, it is truly a product of the Hollywood system, and it is the original movie glossed over to the point where you lose some of the exploitative, grimy grit that the OG brings to the table, right? This is a movie where Mary is a swimmer, and of course her friend, they ask the wrong person for pot again. They get assaulted with their clothes on. We don't ever see anybody get naked. They get murdered, but it's all pretty much off screen. There's not that much blood. There's not much violence. There's no forbidden factor with this movie. This is basically if Hollywood take the original Last House on the Left and polished it up to get it down to like a PG-13 rating where, okay, our third act with the revenge, that will have some gore and violence, but where you truly missed out, I think, on the actual horror and exploitative element of the original movie is the assault of the two girls. That's the worst part of this movie because it's so dialed back. It's not dialed back to 5, it's dialed back to like 1. It's just not as disturbing as the original movie. And to me, the biggest problem was the lead villains. Now, Aaron Paul is one of them. Aaron Paul does an okay job. The rest of them, the guy playing the David Hess role, the guy playing Krug, I mean, horrible. You did terrible. Garrett Dillahunt. Oh my God, he fucking sucks in this movie. Like maybe it's a situation where David Hess's shoes were too big to fill. That could be very well the case. But there's just nothing about him that said, I'm a dirtbag, I'm slimy, I'm evil. Nothing like David Hess did. This was a guy you casted to play that type of role, whereas David Hess, it felt like he was literally the character on the page come to life on the screen. And that was the beauty of David Hess. And of course, Ricky Lindholm as Sadie. Holy shit. Come on. Ricky Lindholm is no Jeremy Rain. Jeremy Rain was one of the biggest keys to why Last House on the Left works, right? Jeremy Rain looked like a human porcelain doll with the makeup and the eyes like literally like a doll. This fucking Sadie was just not. Oh, is it okay if I put you over here? Is that okay? Can I call you Claire? Is it okay? Like, what the fuck were you doing? Jeremy Rain was I loved her character in this because she was addicted to all the sick shit. She's telling her to piss her pants. She's getting off on people pissing themselves. She's getting off on watching her boyfriend sexually take advantage of one of these. Like, this was a sick fucking bitch, and you bought her with David Hess. I mean, their chemistry was undeniable, man. It really was. You really believe them as this dark, sadistic couple that wanted to watch other people humiliate themselves and then repeatedly beat the shit and kill their asses. I mean, it works. This, you don't get anything like that. They're just like, oh, we're acting intimidating. We're trying to be intimidating, Grande. Come on. You're not intimidating. You're a bunch of fucking pansies, a bunch of PG pansies. Just because we're bereaved doesn't make us saps. What the fuck? I mean, their acting ruins this movie. It really does. Like, you would think, oh, with actual money, we could buy actual actors. We don't have to use the ex-wife of Dirty Dick Dreyfus, and we don't have to use David Hess, who was writing songs for Elvis Presley, eating his fucking Wonder Bread to stay alive. No, we can hire real actors. Well, the real actors did a shit job. And you polished this fucking movie down to be as parental guardian advised as it could fucking be. Oh, well, he puts Aaron Paul's hand in the sink and blood flies. Great, big fucking whoop. Is that better than Fred Lincoln getting his dick bit off by the mom in Last House on the Left? Is it more impactful than Jeremy Rain getting her throat slit as she jumps into the pool after a fucking awesome cat fight? Is it better than fucking David Hess getting cut in half with a chainsaw after telling his own son, take the gun, put it in your mouth, blow your brains out, blow your... One of the most impactful scenes. And this, no, I'm emo fucking son. I'm going to sit here with my fucking arms crossed like I'm the fucking Bill Hader character on SNL with my fucking hair combed over to the side like I'm a fucking emo. No, that's the son. Oh, and no one can die in this movie. The friend can die in an unviolent way off screen, but Sarah Paxton, because she's an Olympic fucking swimmer, after getting shot in the fucking shoulder, swims all the way to fucking shore, gets into mommy and daddy's house. He sucks the bullet out with a goddamn Windex bottle, and I'm supposed to fucking come all over myself because daddy saved the day. Daddy wasn't there to take me to the fair to change my underwear, and I don't give a shit what you think about this movie. If you want to give it a 6.5 for being a watered-down, pansy-ass, PG-13 version of a classic fucking movie that defined the 1970s in horror, if you want to put this movie over, brother, that's fine. But for me, this is a fucking watered-down, tame, soft version of the original movie. It is soft. It's Last House on the fucking soft. That's what it is. And there's some people that loved it. They shoved Krug's head into a microwave at the end so everybody can go home happy, covered in fucking jizz. That's what they do. I don't. Yeah, is it well made? Sure, it's not poorly directed. Is it some of the people do an okay job? Sure. Monica Potter, she was in Saw, Tony Goldwyn. They're not the problems. It's just the whole approach to me. Like, I get it. You watered it down for the dummies that go to fucking pay their hard-earned money and say got $46 million. So it decided, hey, we made some money at least. That's cool. But to me, man, this and even the Hills Have Eyes remake, you completely miss why the original movies are great. Are they passable popcorn movies? Sure. But they don't have the balls or the guts or the stakes that those original movies that Wes Craven made had. To me, that's my problem with it. Is it passable? Sure. But if I had no fucking balls, maybe I'll put it over. I don't know. If I ever lose my balls, maybe I'll fucking put The Last House on the Left remake over. But until that happens, I hope it doesn't. But if it does, maybe then we'll ask about it. But let's go to comments because I almost had a brain aneurysm. The same year this movie came out, the remake of Friday the 13th, and of course, John S. Cunningham had worked on both original movies, which, yeah, this is even probably better than the Friday the 13th remake. It's funny, in a world full of terrible remakes, The Last House on the Left isn't really one of them, but it's also the one that, to me, in my opinion, never should have been made because that was a time era movie. It was a lightning in the bottle movie. It was distinctly the early 1970s exploitation. And to take that and Hollywoodize it and make it, dumb it down, to me, in my opinion, it's very dumbed down. It's very, we don't want to offend anybody too badly, that one of the girls that might get assaulted. Like, buddy, it's called Last House on the Left. It's a fucking exploitation film. Go for it. Throw it deep. God damn it. Just sort of had me at RVD and Batista, but I don't know. I would trust you and Mateo's opinion. You had me at RVD. I had a feeling you wouldn't like the Last House remake. I'm not a huge fan of myself, but I do like the ending. Okay. Watered down like I Spit in Your Grave remake. See, I Spit in Your Grave remake, it's that was like at the end they decided let's be Saw, right? Because the Saw train was just about to stop at that time. And instead of them getting axed and hung and all these things. Instead, no, I'll put fish hooks in your eyes and let the fucking crows take your eyes out. No, I'm not gonna drown you in a bathtub. I'll make you do standing planks, Rodney Eastman, over a fucking tub of acid. No, if the mentally challenged guy gets up, it'll shoot a bullet through his fucking asshole through the cop's mouth. She just, everything was Saw. It was like, she was like, okay, now I'm just going to channel my inner Tobin Bell and have all these people die Saw trap way. It's so weird. But I would even take that remake over this. That remake had a little bit of balls, at least. This movie, the language isn't even like disturbing. Like, I wanted some more fucks in this movie, man. Something like, I'm sorry, but you sexually assaulting two women and they had their clothes on? I'm sorry. Am I crazy for that? Like, that's a bunch of bullshit to me. That's bullshit. It's not believable. We're going to assault you, but you can keep your top on. What? I think this film and Hills Have Eyes remake are two remakes I constantly see people say are better than the OGs. And that, to me, that's all well and good if people feel that way. I just don't see it that way because, to me, a big thing is with those two movies, like I said, compared to their remakes, that they had stakes. They had that 1970s drive-in feel, that forbidden factor that it's just not there with those remakes, right? They're dumbed down remakes. And yeah, does Alex Aja do a good job directing? Sure. Did Dennis Alides do a good job directing? Absolutely. But they were really plugged in as directors. It wasn't a situation where they really had to go for anything. They weren't really trying to make any statements. They weren't really pushing the envelope to the point where, holy shit, Mercury, you there, Mercury, this here's Mars. I mean, that, to me, The Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes, the originals, are fucking miles better than those remakes, man. I can't. To me, it's just like, I don't get it. I know that there are certain people that have seen the remakes of those movies first, and therefore, when they go to see the originals, they're let down. Oh, well, I expected more of an action feel. I expected more thrills. That's not what it is. The original Last House on the Left, it's not about whatever the fuck they were trying to do in the third act here. The original Last House on the Left was all about the innocence of losing the innocence of womanhood. Ryan, here's this woman just finding her womanhood, just, going out for parties and raves and concerts and drugs and boys and excited to learn her sexuality. And then by David Hess brutally attacking her and stealing her womanhood before she even knew what it was. It's in the moment where she stands up and is defeated and walks over to the water. She doesn't swim to shore like she's Michael fucking Phelps after a fucking weed binge having 8,000 calorie cheat meal. No, Sandra Peabody walked into the water defeated because her life was over in that moment. Even though she was breathing and had a heartbeat, her life was over in that moment. She was done. You took my innocence, you son of a bitch, and I hope that my daddy chops you in half with a chainsaw, which thankfully happens. That to me is the whole point, and it's not here in this movie because, wow, we've got to go for Hollywood thrills so everyone can get fucking excited over this bitch swimming to shore where she's got a fucking slug in her arm like she's fucking Michael Phelps going for the 8th gold medal. It's a bunch of nonsense. Haddonfield mascots in the house. It was so clean and sucked dry of everything that made the original what it was. They never got the praise for the remake. I don't either. I really don't. It's like, okay, is it technically better than a movie like Chaos? Sure, there's money, there's budget, there's an actual filmmaker that knows how to actually edit and fucking film a movie. There's that, so I could give it praise for that. Some of the acting isn't bad. Aaron Paul's good. Sarah Paxton's okay in the lead. You have the lady from Superbad that's banging Michael Cera. She's the friend in it. But are they Sandra Peabody and Lucy Grantham? No. Like, this may be, I've heard Alpha say this, and I never thought of it this way until the way Alpha put it. There are some movies that I'm too close to see the other side of the coin. And like he always says, for him, it's Dawn of the Dead, which makes sense. I mean, that's my favorite movie too. The Last House on the Left is a similar case. I'm too close to Last House on the Left to see the other side of the coin where people go, oh, this is a better movie than the original. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't see that at all. I see an okay, passable movie, but to say it's better than the original, I mean, I just think that's fucking nuts. I think that's golden apples in the sun and oranges. I hate remakes in general, and especially iconic cult movies. I consider Last House on the Left one of these movies. Yeah, I do too. I'm just not. That remake just doesn't do it for me, man. Everyone had nice teeth in this one. Ha. Yeah, no, exactly. It's very Hollywood. This one's 0 to 100. Yeah, that happens with me sometimes. It's funny. I thought I would go more angry on Chaos, but this movie makes me a little bit more angry. I show up to Grande's talking about sucking coming daddy. Good evening, everyone. Good Lord. Yeah, no, hey, man. That's always a good time to join. Only on the graveyard. The movie Panic Room is almost like Last House on the Left knockoff. You think about it because how it involves these criminals who break into a home. Okay, fair enough. So moving on from that fucking explosion of sorry, I did not think I was going to get that mad, but I did. Let's spin the wheel. Let's make a deal only on the graveyard. What do we got next? Ooh, it's going to be close. And it is. All right, probably my absolute favorite Last House on the Left knockoff from the year 1980 and from director Ruggero Deodato. I'm talking about this movie starring the late, great David A. Hess. I'm talking about House on the Edge of the Park. Brief plot synopsis. 2 low-life punks are invited to a party at Posh Villa and take everyone hostage after being humiliated by their snobbish guests, subjecting them to rape, torture, violence, and mayhem. Yes, House on the Edge of the Park. For my money, this is the best Last House on the Left knockoff that there ever was. And there's a big reason as to why, you get the original cover art there, this is a great cover art to me. The reason is you look no further than the lead actor, David Hess. David Hess, what's the one constant in this movie and the original Last House on the Left? You look no further than David A. Hess himself playing the lead villain, basically a very similar role to the Crude character as he plays Alex in this particular movie. I think he was a once-in-a-lifetime talent. His performance in this is absolutely the number one reason to watch it. He is so good in this film. The movie opens up where he's driving home. It's New York City. They do all these exteriors of New York City, which I thought was kind of funny. And then he runs this woman off the road, gets in her car, and brutally murders and rapes this woman. Now, the woman, if you're thinking about it, was played by his actual wife. They had married in 1978. This film's in 1979. So, hey, what a honeymoon hey, you want to film this movie where I brutally murder and sexually assault you in the opening? Sure, why the fuck not? So that's how the movie opens. He murders this woman. And then we fast forward to like a year or so down the road where we see David A. Hess in his everyday life as a mechanic. And he works, of course, with one of my favorite Italian actors, the late, great Giovanni Lombardo Radici. Giovanni Lombardo Radici plays his other buddy who helps him in the mechanic place. And they're going out for a night of boogieing. David Hess has his bright yellow 80s jacket on. It's very, I mean, holy shit, he couldn't be looking any more 1980s than he does, even though it was filmed in the 70s. Really funny. I mean, really cool. And of course, Annie Bell, who sadly just passed away too. Annie Bell died like last year. It's crazy. David Hess is gone. Giovanni Lombardo Radici's gone. Annie Bell is gone. A lot of people from this movie. Deodato's gone. It's sad, but she and her boyfriend, they roll up. They say, we have an issue with our car. They offer him all this money to fix it. He keeps saying, no, I want to go boogie. And they say, hey, how about you come back to our place for a party? They go back to the place. It's all these rich, obnoxious snobs. Of course, one of them is played by Lorraine DeSelle, who was also in Cannibal Ferox, aka Make Them Die Slowly. Really beautiful lady, and she's still alive, actually. Really gorgeous in this particular movie. And of course, all these rich snobs who, at first, hey, let's dance. They're making fun of Giovanni. Hess doesn't like this. Then they start playing poker with Giovanni and start cheating and ripping him off, dealing from the bottom of the deck. And then, of course, eventually all hell breaks loose. And David Hess, after they're mistreating his friend, takes a switchblade in hand and takes advantage of this entire party as the movie kind of just plays out from there. I love this movie. I think this is a great movie. And of course, there's so many places to go. Riz Ortolani's score. Of course, the same year that his magnum opus, right? His magnum opus score and Ruggero Deodato's magnum opus movie in Cannibal Holocaust comes out. This was released the same year, in 1980, of course, and the same director and musician. Of course, you get that great sweetly, oh sweetly, summertime is coming. Love that score. Really good and haunting. It's like a good way to open up the film as we pan to the house. We get David Hess's name before the title credits, and then we get this, House on the Edge of the Park title. This was a movie they wanted David Hess so badly involved that they promised him half the rights to the movie if he would do it. That's how badly they wanted to work with David Hess. They gave him a fat paycheck. They gave him half the rights to the film, and he himself actually rewrote a lot of his own dialogue for the picture. David Hess, of course, he didn't like what was written on the page, so he said, let me just improvise some of this. And he just, of course, goes on from there. And man, I just, like I was saying before, once in a lifetime talent who I think just absolutely did such a really, really, really good job in this role, playing a little bit different of a character. Now, of course, I know people point to this and Hitchhike and Last House on the Left. Oh, you played the same character. Yeah, I get you. I understand that. But man, his charm here and the psychology of playing a psychopath truly should be studied from David Hess's performance in this film. There's a lot of, oh, hello, lady. Like, there's a lot of that in the movie. And then, of course, to me, the best scene in this movie is when this young, innocent girl named Cindy, she pops up at the house and he tells Lorraine DeSelle, play it cool, play it cool. She comes in and he immediately starts flirting with her because she doesn't know what's going on. All these people are tied up, beaten, gagged, raped, cut, all these things. But she comes in innocent, just looking to have a fun time in the night. She comes in and David Hess kind of charms her over. And she goes, oh, hey, we don't have any studs like this coming around in many of these parties. Like, oh, yeah. He's like, sit down. And the way he degrades her, the way he talks her down and lays her out as she's crying, and he's slowly but surely peeling off her clothes and cutting her ever so slightly with a switchblade. Only David Hess, man. Only David Hess can make that as creepy, unsettling, and unforgiving as he does. And of course, what other than a little song to sing, right? Of course, in Last House on the Left, it's The Road That Leads to Nowhere. It's Wait for the Rain. But in this, it's Cindy, oh, Cindy, Cindy, don't let me down. Write me a letter soon, and I'll be homeward bound. As he's cutting this woman in front of all of her friends, in front of her brother, in front of all these people that have been absolutely tortured, terrified, and victimized by David Hess. It's one of my favorites. I think it's just a great scene. As David Hess is doing this all with a smile ear to ear and kind of laughing at the reactions he's getting. He is truly evil on two legs. And he just does a tremendous job in this. You have a lot of fantastic scenes with he and Giovanni Lamberto Radici and their friendship as their friendship starts to crumble over the base of the movie. It first starts off where I'm protecting my friend, but by the end, where there are certain things that Giovanni doesn't want to do, right? He tells him, go have your way with Lorraine DeSalle, and he can't do it. He's like, she doesn't want to do it. I can't force myself. And David Hess walks up to him and goes, do you need to see me do it? Is that what I have to do? Like the way his intensity of like, you fucking can't just go ahead and do this. I've laid you out. I laid her out on a silver platter for you. You can't fucking be a man up and just do it and just go for it. He can't do it. Can't bring himself to do it because he's not as sick and sadistic as David Hess. There's great scenes with David Hess and of course Annie Bell, who there was some shit that I found out upon the rereading of this movie. Now, of course, like I mentioned, David Hess was married for 2 years when this movie comes out. Of course, there's a scene where he has a shower relation with Annie Bell, and then, of course, they have sex, this rough, tugged sex in the bed. David Hess claims that was real. He really had sex with Annie Bell and bragged about it on set while he was a married man of a movie that his wife was in. Go figure. I don't know. I wasn't there. I know Giovanni Lamberto Radici called bullshit, but apparently David Hess, to his dying day, said that was the truth. I don't know. I don't think that's anything to be proud of, is cheating on your fucking wife while making a film. But Annie Bell was beautiful, and she's head to toe naked in this movie. Big yits, big ass, a glorious 80s porn bush that truly needed some mowing of that lawn, mama. But I mean, those scenes are definitely disturbing in and of themselves too. I mean, as this guy is slowly but surely just taking over this party, there's even a point where everyone's silent, everyone's quiet. And David Hess just walking around, he's pacing, he's thinking, and then he just goes, blah, into somebody's face. Only him could have made that work. It's a movie where you really don't get comic relief, but that one scene just made me go, this is all just a fucking game to him. This is all just another night in the office for David Hess, who just wanted to go boogieing, but of course, when in present of these awful, snobby rich people, decided to take a switchblade in the right hand and of course, let all hell break loose. It's really good. I really like this movie. And like I said, it is for David Hess. His performance is tremendous. You get so much of him in this movie. He's really a true star in this thing. My only fucking gripe of this entire movie is the ending. I hate the ending. I think the ending is so poorly done, where apparently this was all a setup. Spoiler alert, all a setup. They knew what they were doing because David Hess murdered the rich snobby boyfriend's sister in the opening scene. He goes, that was my sister you murdered a year ago. David Hess like, no, like, oh my God. And they shoot him. They have the classic slow-mo scream from Hess. He goes into the pool. They start pissing on his face and the movie kind of comes to an end. It hurts the movie because of this. If you logistically look at this as a setup, you didn't have anybody lying in the wait. You didn't have anybody, if something went wrong, to stop this. Like, it's very, very far-fetched. And I know that, of course, with movies, you have to suspend some disbelief, but it's honestly such an unnecessary and needed twist that I think it should have been thrown out entirely. It totally should have been a situation where somebody got the gun and shot him. Like, that's it. Like, no, we knew it was you the whole time. Like, I was like, oh, that was so poorly written. I hated that. But, you do have the nice character moment of he and Giovanni Lamberto Radici when Giovanni's, after he stabbed him by accident, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do this to you. I love you, man. He's crying. And then they take control and kill his ass. Really impactful, really effective. Ruggiero, 1980, of course, his magnum opus was Cannibal Holocaust. But man, to me, if you want to watch the best Last House on the Left ripoff with the villain actor David Hess from Last House on the Left, look no further than this movie right here, House on the Edge of the Park. I love it. I think it's really, really good. Really solid. Really like this one. But let's see what the comments have to say. I believe, where the heck were we? I think we were here. I would have to agree, Granny. This was one of I watched that was probably the best ripoff. I would agree. House on the Edge of the Park is a 10 for me. It's in my top 10 of all time. Hess and Radici completely smashed their roles. Throw in a naked Annie Bell, and you got a total winner. Yeah, no, rest in peace to all those people you mentioned. That's wow. I didn't know this was so high for you. That's exciting. I love this movie too. I wouldn't say a 10 for me. The ending, and I will say, I know I said I only had one gripe. The other gripe some of the direction's a little clunky. Like some of the fight scenes when they go at David Hess, I always thought that was a little bit goofy, where I was like, man, this could have been a little bit better directed. But David Hess's dialogue kind of saves it, where he's like, too bad you're so clumsy. You could have been a champ. I love that. I think that shit's great. And the deal the cards where I could see him, mister. These fools would know a straight game. They followed one home. Deal the cards, twat. Like, he's great. Hess has said he had sex with AB for real too. Yeah, that's true. That is, I couldn't believe that. And he was married at the time, like, and his wife is in the movie. So I don't know. Like, if that is the case, I'm fucking shocked he would admit that, A. And B, it's like, did the wife find out? Like, if you were bragging about this on set, I would assume it got back to the wife. But then again, the wife was probably only there for one day and worked with him. So maybe not. The Master of Fear is here. What's going on? Hey, Graveyard Man. Hey, Fear. Hope all is well with you. Ruggiero is a director with some chops, therefore is good in a movie. Not a masterpiece, don't get me wrong. Rest in peace, Ruggiero. Yeah, no, he I wouldn't say masterpiece either. But when you're looking at these movies like Last House on August, to me, this is easily the best one. And it's like, I think it's the smartest thing too, because it is its own movie. It's not blatantly like mommy and daddy have to get vengeance for their daughter. They instead do brother getting vengeance for the sister, but that's the whole twist at the end. It's not really that the most of the movie. You have some pros, right? Giovanni Lamberto Radici was working with everyone. Giovanni worked Lucio Fulci in City of Living Dead. He works Ruggero Deodato in House on the Edge of the Park. He works Umberto Lindsay in Make Them Die Slowly. He works oh my God, I'm missing one. I forget who I'm missing. He was like 4 in a row. Oh, I'm sorry. Antonio Margarete and Cannibal Apocalypse. And this is the other guy he worked with. All within like a year. It's insane. How would you want to start your career? All right, working with 4 prolific Italian filmmakers. Why the fuck not, right? Because how many people get to work with Lindsay and fucking Deodato and Margarete? I mean, it's really quite something when you look at his filmography right at the beginning. Like, the guy just kind of fell into success, if you will. And his role is memorable in all those movies. Like, who doesn't remember the drill scene in City of Living Dead? It's one of the best scenes in the movie. Probably my favorite Fulci kill. Darren, I have to agree, it's a 10 for me as well. 2 people giving it a 10. Ending is brutal too. Totally. Cindy, oh Cindy. Great stuff, man. It's incredible how these thrillers set in New York open in Dark City, because the movie Taxi Driver opens with a dark showing the Big Apple. Yes. Dude, I wholeheartedly, I agree. That's one of the biggest names I missed. I wish to God I could have met David Hess. I would watch any movie blindly because of David Hess's talent as an actor. I watched Smash Cut for David Hess. Not a good movie, but David Hess is in it, and he's the lead. You have to watch it. Like, that's it. That's the only credential I need. It could be directed by fucking Alan Smithy. It could be directed by Dave DeFalco. I'll watch anything David Hess is in, because he was that tremendous of an acting talent. He really, really was. Like, I really think his acting should be studied. Like, when I'm watching The Last House on the Left remake, and the guy played Krug in that, I mean, you should have studied some of David Hess's stuff, because it's like David Hess just was creepy. It's not like he was trying to put on a show or trying to be evil. He just fucking was. And that organic, natural approach to it really, really goes a long way to me. House on the Edge of the Park is one of my favorites. So, okay, a lot of people love House on the Edge of the Park. I'm right there with you. I really like it too. Dick shot, yeah, and the slow-mo scream. Ah! Yeah, I wasn't buying to the ending, but it made sense as to why. Yeah, exactly. It ties it together, but it didn't really. It could have just been he got messed up. They asked the wrong person to come to their party. Like, it really didn't have to go there to me. But again, it is like the last 5 minutes of the movie, so I don't let it ruin the ride. I just do think it's kind of a fucking, what? I don't know, just me. Hitchhike is another good one, John. Yes, I have, I had the DVD of Hitchhike too. That's a really good movie, of course, with Corinne Cleary, who's also in Devil's Honey. I believe she's the female on that. Franco Neri as well, I believe, right? Hitchhike's awesome too. Hitchhike is probably a better made movie than this and Last House on the Left. It's not exactly a ripoff though. It's like this couple, they're driving cross country and they pick up him as a hitchhiker, and he fucking basically takes advantage of the car. But it's not the same. It's not really a horror movie. Hitchhike is more of like a thriller type of movie, but it's really good. I agree. And so he worked Michele Soavi. Okay, and what year would he have worked? Because Soavi wasn't directing at this point, right? You want to be mind blown? Do you know who the original fucking actor who was going to play the role of Giovanni Lamberto Radici in this movie, the friend, was none other than Michele Soavi. Look it up. Michele Soavi was cast as the role to play David Hess's best buddy in this. Of course, the Ricky character that Giovanni Lamberto Radici goes on to play. Giovanni was the replacement. I don't know why Soavi couldn't do it. I believe this was around the same time as Alien 2 Solta Terra, which, of course, came out in 1980, which is a piece of dog shit. Don't recommend that movie, but he's in that movie as an actor. So I wonder if that was why he leaves this movie to go film that movie. I don't know if that's the case, but it's very possible because the time correlates and lines up to it. And thinking of that, Rick Dalton was ashamed to do Italian movies. Look at all the good directors. Yeah, right. He even worked with Antonio Margheriti. He got to be on the poster. I mean, Rick Dalton. I want to see a Rick Dalton and fucking Giovanni Lamberto Radici buddy cop movie. That is the movie we all need to see before we pass. Stage Fright. Okay, he's in Stage Fright. Okay, so it was a little bit later on, but yeah, still like that first couple years, absolutely wild. And the fact that he got the job as a replacement, really cool. And I also, one more thing before we move on was that they would of course go on to work again with Lorraine DeSalle, who he has a sex scene with in this movie. They would work in Make Them Die Slowly. She's the lead in that, and he's like the lead kind of gross heel guy. So kind of cool. I love House on the Edge of the Park. Riz Ortolani's score for the win. Diodato, some of the directing could be better, but it's overall David Hess's movie, man, and to me, the best of the last House Knocks. So House on the Edge of the Park. Back to the wheel of torture. Let's do it. Let's spin this wheel. Let's make that deal as there are 2 movies left. And what will be left of us only on the graveyard as we spin this wheel. And it's going to be close. I can't tell because they're both white backgrounds. Okay, Night Train Murder. Honestly, that is as close as it fucking gets. I don't know, man. That was a pretty close one. Stage Fright is a hoot. Yeah, it is. But I like it. Michele Soavi is awesome. But let's go to the brief plot synopsis right here. Okay, a pair of psychotic hoodlums and an equally demented nymphomaniac woman terrorize 2 young girls on a train trip from Germany to Italy. Of course, this was directed by Aldo Lado, who had made a giallo earlier, I think in 1971. It's like Short Doll. I know Matteo is a fan. I know Darren's a fan. I can't think of the fucking name of the movie though. It's like Short Doll, something like that. Someone will say it. Of course, he had directed that, and he, of course, claimed, I never heard of Last House on the Left when he, of course, directed this movie. And basically what you have here is I usually I've been holding up these titles here. What you have here is basically The Last House on the Left on a train. Trains, planes, and automobiles and murders, if you will. That's basically the gist of this movie. It's Christmas Eve. These 2 girls are traveling home to see their family. It's not the whole thing with the rave. Is it technically a Christmas movie? We'll never know. They're traveling home, and then basically Short Night of the Glass Dolls. Thank you. I'm sorry. That would have fucking killed me. I thought so. I know you both have individually told me how much you like that movie, and I know it just got a 4K release, which I believe you guys might have even reviewed. But yeah, that was the movie he had done. That's a lot better movie than this to me. This particular movie, I've always wanted to like it because if you lay it out on paper, it's everything I would like in a movie. You have a guy that's coming off a hot giallo and Aldo Lado. The movie is stylistically very similarly shot in the vein of most gialli at that time. He plays a lot with these primary colors of blue and these interesting colors where we're in the train cell. It is very sadistic, like Last House on the Left, and I don't think it goes over the top with the violence and gratuity like a movie like Chaos does. I think it's actually right on the ball when it comes to the violence and gratuity. What I think this movie misses is the fucking impact. And I said that on the show with Darren and all of them. And I think CK from Dead Pit, he was right on the same page with me. This movie doesn't have the same impact as Last House on the Left. Now, it is a lot more polished. It's not as gritty. It's a little bit slowly paced, but it's a situation where the actors do a pretty good job. I mean, like I said, the gratuity's there. We have Irene Miracle is in this, and it's funny. We were talking about Irene Miracle in Puppet Master last week. This week we're talking about her in Night Train Murders. So full circle, I guess. And right in the middle, she works with Argento in Inferno. So really cool stuff there. The cast does an okay job. You have Marina Berti. You have Flavio Bucci. I mean, you have some decent actors here that do a capable, passable job. I just don't think this is a movie that has the same impact like I was saying. Now, Last House on the Left, what do I mean by that? Last House on the Left, it's in the middle of the summer. It's in the middle of the woods. You can almost feel the heat and the grime and the uncomfortability. This movie, we're in a train where these women are getting sexually assaulted. There's the nymphomaniac lady that's getting off on this, really enjoying seeing these women get tortured and all that stuff and brutally assaulted. It's fine. In the way, this is a cold version of it. I think it's almost like the Shining argument, right? Where Stephen King says, "Oh, in my film, the hotel burns down, and Kubrick's movie, it's freezing cold." I think that's the difference. It's very similar. It's that type of difference where this is a colder film, and it makes sense in the middle of the fucking winter. It's Christmas Eve. The revenge here does not work. It's missing something for me. It always is missing a little bit something. It's okay. It's almost similar to the remake. It's made well. Acting for the most part solid. I would say the violence is done better here, and it's definitely not nearly as polished, even though it's a lot better looking than most Last House on the Left knockoffs. You don't have that same grit, I don't think. But overall, it's a passable one for sure. Just gets a little dull at some moments, and it's one of those movies where I always thought I would like it more because, like I was saying, on paper, giallo filmmaker, primary colors, Last House on the Left, we throw a train in there, throw some good actors. What's there not to like, right? On paper, that's all things that I would generally flock like a bird to. It is missing something. I can't put my finger quite on what, but it's just one where it's always kind of like a shrug, like, should have been better. But let's go to the comments. Let's see what you all have to say. I'm curious. Night Train Murders, another top 10. Wow. Okay, so two top 10 movies in a row. That's very interesting. I'm curious. I know we talked a little bit about would Last House be if you had to rate Last House out of 10? I'm curious. What would you rate Last House out of 10? If these get a 10, if this gets a 10 and House on the Edge of the Park at a 10, where would Last House fall on that scale for you? Because I'm curious. Short Night of the Last House. Yep, Darren. This has some brutal scenes. The knife scene and her getting thrown off was wild. 4K looks great. Okay, you have the 4K. I still have this this Blue Underground Blu-ray, which it does look pretty good as well. And I'm sure the 4K would look amazing. Even though it's a movie that's 50 years old, which is wild to think about. I have a love/hate relationship with Night Train, whatever. I guess it has several titles. Yeah, it does. It is Night Train Murders, Late Night Trains, The Last Stop of the Night Train. There's 100 different titles for this movie. Titles, part of me wanted to like it, but I don't know, just feels off. I'm actually with you. It's missing something. I don't quite know what. I don't want to say it's ballless like the Last House on the Left remake. It's not. It has balls. I don't know if they're in the right place. I don't know. I don't know if its guts were in the right. It's just a little off. I can't explain it either. Who Saw Her Die is another solid Aldo Lotto movie, an underrated Italian director and a great person. Rest in pepperonis, Aldo. Okay, totally. Yeah, no, I haven't seen enough of Aldo's work. Now I know when we did that show with Darren and Dirk and CK and Gizmo, I think was on there with us. And if anyone else, I forget. Maybe Steve. Steve might have been on there. When we did that show, I watched a lot of interviews with Aldo, and I kind of was cringing at him being I never saw Last House on the Left. Trust me, I never had any idea. I was like, dude, that's kind of bullshit. I know Gizmo was arguing it's not, but I totally think he had seen Last House, and this is really very derivative in that way. I think in a good way though for most people. This seems to be a more liked one, and this is, of all the movies we're talking about here tonight, on IMDb is the highest rated. So I'm sorry, Last House Remake is the highest rated of all these movies. Go figure. Strictly guessing, but is this the only Last House ripoff with a nympho? No, not necessarily. Definitely not necessarily. I'm sure in the replay there will be people saying you missed this ripoff, you missed that ripoff. I can't cover every fucking Last House on the Left ripoff, but I figured 8 was a good place to stop. Last House is on the Left is a 9.5 or even a 10 for me. Definitely top 25. Okay, so it's at least it's in the ballpark. It's not a situation where it's a 6 out of 10 for you, where it's oh my god, throw that movie away. The Cowman Show. Hey, sorry I'm late. What movie are we discussing? We're discussing Last Stop of the Night Train Train Murders or even Late Night Trains, whatever title you want to give it. I think it's solid. It is solid. It's just not one that I grab for much. It's a video nasty where it would be in the middle of the pile for me. Slasher Fred, I need to see Hitchcock's films. Oh, Hitchcock did some great movies. It's just a comedy. Understandable. Okay, the bumbling cops that's understandable. A lot of people can't stand that about the original Last House on the Left. What is the difference between influence and derivative? Midsummer is totally The Wicker Man, but it doesn't feel like a ripoff. I mean, to me, it's all story driven, right? Like if it's a situation where a girl's going out somewhere, they get sexually assaulted, and then someone tries to take revenge on their behalf, that to me is a Last House on the Left knockoff. That's as plainly as I could say it. Jack Doobie is in the house. What about The Virgin Spring? Well, if you caught the beginning of the show, my friend, that was one of the very first movies I mentioned. Hit the rewind button because I mentioned The Virgin Spring. That's what about it. And of course, that brings us to the last movie on the wheel. Yes, we are here. Victory lap for this movie because it's the last one of the 8. I'm talking about this little movie from the year 1978. I'm talking about Mears Yarkey's film, initially titled The Day of the Woman, but of course eventually retitled to the more infamous I Spit on Your Grave. Brief plot synopsis. An aspiring writer is repeatedly assaulted, humiliated, and left for dead by 4 men she systematically hunts down to seek vengeance on. This woman has just cut, chopped, broken, and burned 5 men beyond recognition, and no jury in America will convict her. I Spit on Your Grave. One of the better ones too. Definitely up there for me too. I really have always enjoyed this movie. This Blu-ray, of course, has the famous Joe Bob Brick commentary on it, which is one of my favorite commentaries of all time. I know this finally got a re-release on 4K. It's like a set, I think. I don't know what movies come with that. Someone have to enlighten me that has that. I bought this when it was out of print. So this is one that I spent a pretty penny on, and I probably should have waited to get the 4K of. But to me, this is another exploitation classic and a movie that I just absolutely adore ever since the first time I saw it. And I thought that of all of these movies, now, while I think there are better movies, like I think this movie is better. I think that I would even say maybe this movie, but not really. I would say this is probably maybe the second best one. This movie has some of that impact that I thought was missing with a movie like Late Night Trains. This has that impact in there. Of course, it's a woman who is a writer. She, of course, is from the Big Apple, played by Camille Keaton, who, of course, did quite a lot of giallo. Of course, she's Solange in What Have You Done to Solange? One of my definitely a top 10 giallo for me. I love that movie. She's here as the lead, and she's Jennifer Hills, I think the character's name is. I can pull it up here. Jennifer. Oh, okay. In the remake, she's Jennifer Hills, and this is just Jennifer. She goes up to her upstate house. She has this mentally challenged guy named Matthew. He delivers her the grocery. You come from a very dark place, New York City. He visits her, and then he goes back, tells his buddies about it, and they decide, hey, let's go up there and sexually assault her. And basically, there is a rape scene that goes on for just about 30 minutes in this movie, and it is truly some of the most disturbing things you'll ever watch in cinema. I don't think it's to the point where it's like Chaos, where it was too much or it was barking up the wrong tree. I think it was very effective in what it was trying to do, and it effectively disturbing in the story that it's telling. You see this woman literally then she walks away, then gets raped again in the woods. I remember when I first watched this movie, I had to pause it after that and just take a walk. Like it was that disturbing to me, where I was like, I need to get out of the house. I need to just see the world and breathe in some fresh air for a little bit. It's truly that disturbing. Then you go back, sit down, and of course, she plots her revenge as she picks off these guys one by one. That the classic Matthew coming and going. She seduces him, and then he's having sex with her, and she hangs him. So hence coming and going. You have the one guy that, of course, to me, the most effective scene in this movie, and probably every man's nightmare, when they're having the kind of sexual encounter in the bathtub, right? She goes to the leader of these guys in the bathtub, and they go in this bubbly bathtub, and he goes, "Oh, your hands are amazing." And she's under there. And then, of course, she kind of reaches out, grabs a knife, and goes back in unbeknownst to him. He's like enjoying this. And he goes, "Oh, your hands are magical. They're magical." What made this so disturbing to me is the fact that he doesn't realize at first that she's cut his dick off. He goes, "Oh, what was that?" And then you see a little blip of blood, and he goes, "Look what she's done to me! Look what she's done to me!" As this guy starts freaking the fuck out as his, his pride and joy is bleeding all over the fucking place. Oh my God. The first time I saw that, I was like literally watching like this, like, oh my God, like that is horrifying. And what does she do? Locks him in the bathroom. He's screaming, banging on the door, bleeding to death. Let's put on some classical music on a record because why the fuck not? It's the Day of the Woman, by God. I love that. I thought that was I was like, yes. And then, of course, the final couple guys, she gets them in the lake with the axe and then suck it, bitch. And, of course, the motor as the, of course, the woman rages on. I think it's an exploitation classic. To me, it's a quintessential drive-in grindhouse movie. I know that the director, other than Don't Mess With My Sister, had not made any other movies after this, which I wish to fucking God he had never made anything else. Because unfortunately, in 2020 something, we got I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu, which is a movie that is so bad that I could not finish it. I literally turned I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu off. I turned it off. It was truly amongst the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, it's that bad. It's 2.5 hours. And it is fucking absolutely horrible. I actually remember the lead actress. I want to say her name was Jamie Bernadette or something. She followed me on Twitter for the longest time back when I had Twitter. And I remember she messaged me like being like, "Oh, could you say something about that?" And I was like, "Oh, when I see it, totally." And then when I fucking saw it, I remember being like, "What the fuck, lady? You got to fire your agent. Go fucking crawl under somebody's fucking bed and pretend people forget about this movie." Like, it's horrible. The I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu. I know they remade it. I don't mind the remake. I think I will take the remake of that over the fucking Last House on the Left remake. At least it had some kind of cojones, even though it became a fucking torture porn in the last act of it. And then they did the sequels to that, which the second one was horrible. And then the third one was like Rape Squad. It was like she goes to this rape counseling group and every person she hears was assaulted, she goes, "Oh yeah, who was the guy that did it?" And then she goes and attacks and kills the guys. So I thought the third one was fun, like dumb fun. And then of course the Deja Vu was the worst of the bunch. But this, to me, they never should have made a sequel. The remake, okay, if you wanted to do one remake, that's fine. The remake is probably the second best I Spit on Your Grave movie. But to me, this is another movie that's a product of its time. It's very 1970s. It's distinctly 1970s. It has that low budget feel. It has that impact that the original Last House on the Left does. And I think it's definitely one of the better knockoffs that are going to be discussed here tonight. So I Spit on Your Grave from 1978, aka Day of the Woman. Really, really good one. A classic. And of course, fun fact, this is previously Oscar nominated actress Demi Moore on the cover. Yeah, you heard that right. That's the bitch from The Substance herself. This is Demi Moore, which I always thought was kind of funny. But let's see what y'all have to say in the chat. Where were we? I think we were here. Hey, Miss C, I love movies, so this is my place. Well, thank you, Cowman Show. I'm not as familiar with your name, but if you've been here watching for a while, I appreciate that. I'll have to then, absolutely. I Spit on Your Grave still impacts today. That's to me, that's what sets it apart. It has that like the distinctive fucking kill in the bathtub and the killing the slow guy, right? Because they send him back in to do it. And you got to go in there and finish the job. And he can't do it. Thus, she survives and then plots her vengeance and spits on their grave. It's really cool. To me, it's a classic exploitation movie. AJ's Happy Fun Time channel. You know my history with this one. Dude, if you want to hear a crazy story, you look no further than this guy. At the age of 5 years old, they re-released I Spit on Your Grave in the theater. And AJ went with his parents to see this movie at the age of 5 years old in the theater. I mean, could you only imagine what type of night AJ must have had with his family? And then, I always hear the story too, the Stephen Thrower tells, where Stephen Thrower said he was renting movies in a Hollywood Video or a Blockbuster or something. And he said that he saw an old woman run up to her husband and say, look, I think he's British. And look, honey, I've got a horror. I picked a horror out. And he goes, well, what did you get? And she says, oh, it's I Spit on Your Grave. And he's like, I could just imagine the night that 70-year-old couple had that night watching this fucking movie. Like, it's awesome, man. It really is. Nice. Love Joe Bob. Yeah, no, if you're a Joe Bob fan, I would assume the commentary has to be on the 4K. I don't have the 4K to confirm that, but it is on the ear. I would assume they have to because it's like one of the best commentaries. I Spit in Your Grave is a painful watch for me, mostly the repeated. Yeah, of course. But Damn It, Her Revenge makes it worth sitting through 4 out of 5 for me. That's, I think, a perfect rating for it. Yeah, I agree. It is disturbing, but I think, again, it had some kind of an impact where it was like, okay, wasn't all for naught. This wasn't all for nothing. And like, I do think for what it's worth, the movie is pretty well shot. Like, I always thought that the look of the movie, I think this movie would look good in 4K. Now, it still has a lot of that grit and grime, which I like. And I think all 70s movies should still have that grain in there. But from what I understand, the 4K, it's all the grain is gone. Like, it's super polished. So I don't know if that would quite work. Like, this is a Blu-ray I'm not really going to part with. I don't think I would. I mean, I'd like to see the movie in 4K, but I don't know if I would ever spend the money to drop to see that. 30 minutes, that's longer than Gaspar Noé's Irreversible. I had to take a walk after seeing that. I can't imagine 30 minutes. Well, yeah, and Irreversible is a great movie. Gaspar Noé is a once-in-a-lifetime filmmaker. He really is. And like that particular movie is, yeah, no, I know the scene you're talking about. It's so disturbing. And, of course, you remember a little scene of that with the fire extinguisher. And, I mean, Irreversible is a tough one. It's a tough movie to get through. And I know they've just released that too, where you can watch it forwards. You could watch the cut forwards, which I literally couldn't imagine doing that, but it is a possibility now. I remember walking past this VHS store as a kid. The cover image always kept me coming back to check out the box. Yeah, it's an iconic, that's an iconic poster. And the tagline is amazing. This woman is chopped, crippled, and mutilated 4 men beyond recognition, but no jury in America will convict her. That's great. I think that's great. I remember, it's funny you mentioned that. There used to be, I don't know if it's still around. There used to be a website called Rabbit in Red, where it was all horror T-shirts and memorabilia and apparel. And I bought, it was a Australian VHS cover art T-shirt of this movie. It had the yellow outline, and it was just the woman in the middle with everything on it. The shirt, unfortunately, doesn't fit. I saw this movie probably in middle school, so I was like a fucking monster fan of it when I first saw it. I was like, this is amazing. But I remember ordering that shirt. It's definitely around somewhere. I would never have thrown it out, but it definitely does not fit me anymore, unfortunately. I Spit in Your Grave is another solid movie like House on the Edge of the Park and Night Train on your list. Made my favorite of this stream. Okay, yeah, no, I could see that. I could totally see that. I would say it's this or House on the Edge of the Park for me is the best of these movies. But I could totally see saying this is the best Last House Knock for sure. The only way to watch Deja Vu is with a Joe Bob commentary. Dude, could Joe Bob talk that long, though? 2.5 hours of Deja Vu. I watched the first hour and a half of it. It was like Camille Keaton and her daughter, who was played by this lady that followed me on Twitter, Jamie Bernadette, whatever the fuck. They have lunch. They're talking about her book and her experience. Then these fucking people, one of them looks like Heather Donahue, kidnaps them and then tortures them for an hour and a half. They eventually do kill Camille Keaton's character by beheading her and then throw her head to the daughter. And then it's like, dude, you have another hour on this? I can't do it. I had to turn it off. I actually freaked the fuck out. It was like, I can't do this no more. How's there another hour of this? Oh my God. I almost had a nervous breakdown watching that movie. I just looked at my copy. I had no clue Joe Bob did the commentary. Definitely watching it over the. Oh, dude, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm assuming you have the 4K. So yeah, there you go. If you do have the 4K, Ryan Hanley just confirms that is on there. And dude, yeah, if you're a Joe Bob fan, trust me, it's one of his best commentaries. Like it was a big reason why I threw out the money to pay this. I guess Last House on the Left, the parents serve a really cold dish of revenge. Oh, of course, right? And who better to deal that dish out. I actually dig the remake of the OG, just like you said, this one is legitimately horrifying. Yes, I don't, like, I think AJ was saying before that the remake of this is really watered down like Last. I don't see it as watered down as Last House. It's not. It's really not. Like, at least the fucking, like, you got these are some hick hillbillies. They're into some sick shit. Like, you had Rodney Eastman in there from Dream Warriors. I always thought it was weird. Joey! I always thought that was weird to have him in there. You had the fat kid from Mean Girls as one of them. Like, it was weird. And then, of course, I thought the dialogue definitely, I don't know, it had a little bit of the spirit. It retained some of the spirit. It's not perfect, but I would put the remake of this over shit like the Last House on the Left remake. It's not shit even. I feel bad. I keep putting that movie down, but I don't know. I knew there was something about that, but I liked Demi. Yeah, gotta love Demi. Demi Moore, man. It's crazy. Demi Moore. Let's see. What kind of parents would take a 5-year-old to? I guess I don't know. That's a question for AJ's parents to answer, but I don't know. Stephen Thrower, the British Art Anderson. That's right. He does look like fucking British Art Anderson. That's fucking great. This movie was also called Day of the Woman. I did mention that. Slasher Fred, correct. I've never seen it. I'll have to watch it tonight. Awesome. Okay. Have a good night, everyone. Got to hit the bed. Great stream. Stoked to be able to catch some of this. Take care. Haddonfield Mascot, thank you so much for the support. I do appreciate that, man. Joe Bob can talk forever if you get him started. I guess that's true, but tough movie to cover. Good night, Haddonfield. I have a random question. Have you or anyone in the chat saw a movie that just came out called Popeye's Revenge? I'm trying to find someone to share the pain. I have not. If anyone in the chat has, though, feel free to talk all things with Mateo. I had the Blu-ray. I'm sure if the 4K has the joke, I would think so, too. I would have that assumption, too. But, this Blu-ray's fine. You don't really need this particular movie in fucking 4K. Awesome show. As always, Grande, I pretty much agree with all the movies I watched. Totally. Yeah, no, we were on the same page all night. Homely. I remember the first show, I saw an edited version of Blue Velvet, then bought the DVD and watched it with my parents. Most awkward experience ever. I'm sure the Dennis Hopper scenes with oh my God, why can't I think of her fucking name? Isabella, oh my God, I can't think of her fucking name, but you know what I'm talking about. With her, with fucking throwing her down and, I need sex. That fucking craziness, man. Blue Velvet's a wild one, especially with the folks. That would be crazy. But yes, the Wheel of Torture is now empty. We've discussed 8 Last House on the Left knocks, and unfortunately, we have had some regrets tonight on Grande's Graveyard. But the thing that we don't regret, of course, is always interacting with you guys and shooting the breeze. Of course, if you're catching the replay, comment down below. Let me know, of course, which of these Last House. There we go, Rosalini. I knew it. I fucking knew it. I couldn't fucking think of her name. I don't know. I'm having an off night, I guess. I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments which ones of these, of course, Last House Knocks are some of your favorites, maybe some ones that I missed. We could totally discuss Last House Knocks all night. We could discuss it till the dawn of the sky, I guess, if you will. Next week, we'll be doing a countdown of my top 10 favorite horror movie scenes. So it's going to be very exciting. And, of course, small spoiler, Last House on the Left will be mentioned on that show. That one of the top 10 scenes does come from that movie for me. But, of course, the other 9, I'll keep you in suspense until then. And if you guys want to, of course, count on your top 10 scenes, let me know that for that show. Totally cool. I'm looking forward to it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. This was all things Last House on the Left knockoffs from the good, the bad, and the goddamn ugly. I do appreciate you guys checking out the show. Later, everyone. Dinner time for me. Have a good night. Thank you, Ryan. I will definitely catch I Spit in Your Grave. You got me interested. I got to go. Good night. Talk about more movies. Absolutely, man. Everybody, thank you so much for checking out the show. We will catch you next time. Only on the Graveyard. Too sweet peace. Good night, everybody. The road leads to nowhere.